Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Murray King, Board Chair at LIC. Welcome to the 2023 annual meeting. Actually, we were back here in 2015, I think was the last time we were here in Ashburton. Hey, firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge, I recognise it's a really busy time of year. These events are always difficult to find an appropriate time to run them, so I appreciate your attendance here nevertheless. There's a couple of housekeeping matters we'll just knock off. I might just say we're running online as well, so it's not just the audience here, there will be people joining virtually as well. And we've run that procedure for the last couple of years, which seems to work reasonably well. In order to vote, you need to have registered with LIC Market Services. I believe you've probably done that on the way in. If you've not voted and haven't brought your postal vote with you, you'll have been given a voting form at registration. If you haven't registered, please do so out in the foyer. If you're voting at the meeting today, please indicate your vote on the voting paper that will be supplied. These will be collected at the end of the meeting, and I'll tell you when to do that. For those of you online, you can vote using the online platform, so please get the Get a Voting Card button and enter your shareholder number, and it will take you through the details of that. There are 12 resolutions here today, and I'll deal with how they're going to be voted later on. With respect to general business, if anyone joining online has any items of general business or questions they'd like to ask, please send them via the Ask a Question link, and you can do that now or at any time during the meeting, and they'll be collated and answered at the end. For those of you in the room, please raise your hand to ask a question during general business, and we'll bring a microphone along to you. We've designed the procedure for today's meeting so that those online have the same opportunity to participate as those in the room. Before we officially begin the meeting, I would like to cover a few points regarding the use of the online platform. So you'll need your shareholder number, talked about that. The voting remains fully confidential. No one on the call will see your vote. And for questions, to ask questions on the online platform, use that button as I outlined earlier. If you do happen to have any problems, there's an 0800 number, 0800 200 220. If anyone has any items of general business that are of a more technical nature, could you please ask them now? That's just if we need to get an expert from Newstead or wherever to answer anything difficult. But David, you'll be able to manage most of them, pretty sure. Has anyone got any really curly questions? Technical? No? Perfect. So let's get on with it. So the notice of meeting has been circulated to all shareholders and taken as read. Quorum is clearly present, so we can begin. So firstly, a very warm welcome to all of our shareholders here, to fellow shareholders, to LIC staff, the shareholder reference group, Ian Brown and Shirley Trumper, there you are, from the Honoraria Committee, LIC's auditors, lawyers, bankers and advisors, welcome. Also joining us here today is, on my right, David Chin, our Chief Executive, and Brent Mellings, our newly minted CFO as of 10 weeks. Yep. Also our directors present here, and if you wouldn't mind just standing up so everyone can see you would be useful. So Alison Waters, out of Waverley, Ben Dickey, and of Auckland fame, Candice Kinser. Our incoming chair, Corrigan Soman. Where is he? There he is. Out of Northland, Ken Hames. And from down the road in North Otago, Matt Ross. Hi, everyone. Sophie Haslam from Wellington, one of our independents. And finally, our last independent, Tim Gibson. As chair, I hold 896,557,000 proxies from 26 shareholders. I'll now call. Actually, I've got apologies from Mark Benz, Rob Wilson, Duncan Cole, David Jensen, Emlyn Francis, Andy McFarlane, Scott Montgomery, and Gordon Glentworth. I'll call for any other apologies. Andy Grant. No other apologies? I'll move that those be accepted. Could someone second them? Thanks, Ben. Moving on. The agenda for today's meeting, I'll just run through that quickly. I'll cover off the business highlights and look to the year ahead. David Chin and I will recap on the strategy and present how we're tracking. And Brent Mellings, our CFO, will run us through some of the financials, an overview and the highlights. And David will also talk to the priorities, including the herd improvement and the rate of genetic gain being made on our farms, LIC's focus on future solutions, and from there, Ian Brown of the Honoraria Committee, as the Chair, will present the Honoraria report. We'll move into the voting resolutions and finally the general business and the Q&A session. So, where are we up to? Key highlights of the year. The farmer uptake of premium genetics, the growth of animal health and DNA testing, the continued focus on R&D and technology investment. So I'll go through them with a little bit more detail. The premium AB product. So our 2022-23 result was fuelled by the increased farmer uptake of premium genetics and herd improvement services to breed highly efficient cows with a lower emissions footprint. Farmer shareholders know that all cows aren't created equal and that they're investing in solutions to breed the cows better, faster. Using genetics from LIC, farmers have almost doubled the rate of genetic gain in their herds over the last 10 years. So that works out at achieving around 18 GBW points per annum. Significant increase from what it used to be. We'll talk a bit more about that later. LIC's premium genetics range accounted for 79% of the co-op's total artificial breeding inseminations, which was up from 71% the previous year. Orders for sex semen also increased as more farmers factor this important tool into their breeding plans and accelerate the rate of genetic gain on farm. Now, we fully acknowledge that the non-return rate for sex semen last season was well below what we would have usually expected, and several enhancements and changes to procedures have been made as a result, and we've continued to monitor the sex semen non-return rate throughout the winter mating period, and the result is within the expected range, happily. The other highlight around animal health testing, so it's also pleasing to note that farmers have increased their investment in DNA in the testing services and animal health testing, particularly Yonis testing. So notably, Yonis testing remains one of the most popular diagnostic services, reaching a milestone of over 1.1 million test samples processed, which is an increase on 16% from the previous year. So overall, animal health tests were up 13.2%, accounting for $10.2 million of revenue. So, over the next 12 months, we'll continue to focus on investing in the right R&D initiatives with an aim to deliver profitable and sustainable outcomes for the dairy sector. And we expect underlying earnings in the 2023-24 year to be in the range of $17 to $22 million. The other thing I want to touch on here is the delivery on our commitments. So it remains a key focus for the 23-24 year, and I'll quickly recap on the strategy and then David will dive into it. So our strategy is focused on building a strong, sustainable cooperative, leading the world in the field of and delivering outstanding value to our customers, shareholders and the industry. And we create value through the focus on 4 key areas, and this is really important. So those 4 key areas are our farmers, the animal, data and digital, and innovation. And there it is there. I'd like to cover off a few examples from the past year that show our strategy in action. So sitting in the data and digital area, we've partnered with 8 leading cow wearable technology suppliers to integrate our Minder herd management system. This year we saw 426,000 wearables integrated with Minder, and it's great to see farmers utilising this integration to unlock even more value from the wearables investment. The genomics remains a key focus, which will enable us to continue to deliver value on farm. The board remains strongly committed to genomics, and this is reflected in our investment in the technology over the past 12 months. So our genetics offering has continued to go from strength to strength with the increased focus on dairy beef genetics, which offers an alternative revenue stream for our farmers and supports the reduction in non-replacement calves. And finally, we also, this is the third year of the methane research trial. We're working in collaboration with CRV and Pāmu. So 400 heifer calves have been born at one of the Pāmu farms near Taupo this year, and 200 of the low methane emitting bulls and 200 from 200 progeny from 200 progeny from low methane emitting bulls and 200 from high emitting methane bulls, and we're measuring these heifers and that'll be taken during their first milking season to ensure that they're representatives of their fathers, and so it's quite exciting research. We continue to focus on the three commitments which we outlined last year, and those commitments are faster genetic improvement, which I think you'll see from that 18 BW per annum gain on, and on operational excellence and on software reliability and performance. So I'll just one last thing. This is my last meeting as chairman, and I'm pleased to say the company is in good heart, and we've got a good board and a good successor. So more to come. So I'll hand over to David, and we'll work through some of the progress.
Thank you very much, Murray, and it's great to be here in Ashburton, and great, fantastic turnout, so thank you very much for giving up some of your time this evening to attend the AGM. Look, it gives me absolute pleasure to be able to talk to you about the commitments that we've made to our farmers and shareholders, and these commitments have kind of gone down really well, and it keeps everyone internally kind of focused on the things that really matter to farmers. The three commitments provide everyone with clear goals and expectations of delivery and what it looks like. I'm really happy to report that the majority of the targets that we set for the business that year have been met and exceeded, and we really remain focused internally on achieving the ones that we haven't yet achieved and continue to work to better those in the upcoming year. Look, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through all of the results today, but I do want to share some examples of how we've set the commitments and how we've measured them to be completely transparent with everyone. The full suite of the commitments and all the measurements are in our sustainability report. That's a really fantastic report. It's available online at our website. So I do encourage you, if you want to look further and investigate more about what we're doing and how we're holding ourselves to account to deliver to you, please read that report. Faster genetic improvement, like herd improvement is what we do. It's absolutely critical and central to our cooperative. We're committed to helping the sector meet environmental challenges we face, and animal efficiency is really going to be at the centre of this. One of the measurements we have is to ensure that we have a 15 BW increase per annum for our premier size bull teams year on year, and it's great to see that last year our team had a gain of 22 BW points, so exceeding on that as well. In the report, on the sustainability report, there's a whole lot of other metrics around how we measure genetic gain, and we're doing really well on most of them. In terms of operational excellence, making sure we deliver our services to you on time, every time, one of the commitments we have here is around ensuring that we get our herd testing results out to farmers within 72 hours of doing the herd test, and it's great to see that we achieve that 99.99% of the time. And also another one is the gene mark turnaround time. We know that the key to uptake of getting more people to do parentage testing is to continue to improve the turnaround time of this service. The commitment was to achieve a 5-week turnaround time, and we achieved that 95% of the time. And this year, internally, the operational team have a challenge to cut that down yet again to a 4 week. So internally, we've got 95% of the time to get that those results turned around in 4 weeks, and progress is looking really, really good for that this year. I would also say, it hasn't always been plain sailing. Murray did acknowledge earlier on that the sex semen performance wasn't where we wanted it to be, so we are doubling down on that operationally to ensure that this season we return that product to a non-return rate which we've achieved over the last 10 years. So pleasingly, the winter performance of sex semen was within expectations, and really confident the spring season will be successful as well. Software performance and reliability. Minder is such a central part of most dairy farmers' businesses these days, and we want to really make sure that the software that we provide not only works fast and is responsive, but it's also available all the time. So when you go into your app or online, that Minder is up and running for you. So we set ourselves a target to make sure that the Minder software is available 99% of the time. We exceeded that this year, 99.5% of the time. Some of the reasons why it may go down is for patching and security, etc. But we're trying to make sure that we reduce that amount of time, and so it's up and available for you. So this is just a snapshot of the progress we've made this year. These metrics were recognised as being important to farmers, but what we do is we continually evolve them, seek feedback, and making sure that the things that we need to deliver on are clear for our internal people, and that we set a clear target for them. So we're constantly going to evolve them, change them, and make sure that they are relevant, and then we'll track them in a transparent way for you. So that's just a review of our 3 commitments, critical part of our strategy, how we have delivered on those 3 commitments. I'm now going to pass to Brent Mealings to highlight our financial performance for the 22-23 financial year. Brent.
Thank you, David. Good evening, everybody. As Murray mentioned, I started in August as the CFO here at LIC, and this evening I'm pleased to report another strong financial result for the co-op. Delivering value for our farmers is the centre of everything we do, and it's results like this that enable us to deliver a solid dividend at a time when cost pressure on farmers being felt, a strong portfolio of herd improvement products and services, and importantly the right R&D investment to help our farmers keep their herds profitable and sustainable into the future. There are some specific numbers I'd like to highlight from our financial results. Our net profit after tax of 27.4 million was up 2.4% from last year. A dividend of 23.3 million or 16.38 cents per share, and underlying earnings of 23.7 million, down 7.6% on the previous year. At the end of the financial year, your cooperative has a strong balance sheet with no debt and total assets of 382 million. Total revenue from continuing operations of 276.5 million was up 5.1% on the previous year. This growth in revenue reflects our products and services are delivering to farmers, including our premium genetics offering, herd testing and animal health testing. Like our farmers, we are also faced with challenging economic conditions and increased cost pressures, which was reflected in our revised 2023-24 earnings guidance, which originally was between 22 and 28 million, and we've now reduced that to between 17 and 22 million. Despite this, we are committed to delivering exceptional value on farm and investing in the right places to support a more profitable and sustainable sector for our New Zealand dairy farmers. During the 2023 financial year, we continue to invest in areas that support our co-op and our farmer shareholders into the future. Capital approvals demonstrate the areas where we are reinvesting into the business, and you can see that 64% of our capital investment in the 22-23 financial year contributed to investing in building capability, including critical infrastructure, software upgrades, key minder enhancements, such as integrations with leading wearable suppliers. Investment in R&D was $18.6 million for the year, up from $18.2 million the previous financial year. This retains our position as one of the largest private investors in R&D for the primary sector, at 6.7% of revenue. Our focus remains on investing in areas that will deliver value for our farmer shareholders, and a strong emphasis on genomics and key research programs that will help our farmers meet their long-term environmental goals. Thank you. David, back to you.
Look, thanks, Brent. It was a really good financial overview of how the cooperative is performing. Just this section, I just want to reflect on a wee bit of what we've got in the future and have a think about the importance that cow efficiency is going to play in our dairy sector going forward. You know, we've reflected that we can improve our operations, and we've got some really good commitments to be operationally excellent, generate faster genetic gain, and deliver great software. But the investments that we're making towards breeding a more efficient and sustainable cow is more important now than it has ever been. LIC is more relevant now than it has ever been. To help our sector meet its sustainability goals, to be sustainable, and for farmers to have a profitable farming business, we need to be breeding highly efficient cows, and through our products and services, farmers are doing just that. Look, our full suite of products and services are supporting farmers to breed better cows, and the support they receive through our nationwide agri-manager network and field staff means that every one of our cooperative owners, shareholders, has access to the best combination of tools to achieve their herd improvement goals. You know, Murray's highlighted already that we saw an increased uptake in premium genetics products where the young genomically selected bulls are used to fast-track genetic gain. This in turn delivers more value on farm through increased productivity and improved environmental outcomes. I just want to pause for a bit and just take you through how this manifests itself. Our latest research, when we looked at long-term users of LIC genetics, and we wanted to demonstrate the ability of them to achieve faster rates of genetic gain, and also demonstrate the huge opportunity that still exists in the dairy sector. Close to 1 million cows formed the sample set from current minder herds that were all herd tested, aged between 4 and 8 years old. We grouped these into by breed, so this is just Holstein Friesians here, and put them into quartiles based on VW. And what we can see is that the top quartile animals, the high VW animals, 221 VW in this, and these are milking cows in your herds right now. They are producing more milk solids, turning more feed into milk. They're doing it with less live weight and have a fertility advantage. And they also have a lower emissions of footprint per kilogram of milk solids. And these are the sorts of gains that we see in herd after herd, and these are the sorts of gains that we want to unlock for the dairy sector. It'll be pivotal for our sector going forward. We don't need more cows, we just need the best cows. And today's best cows are producing 481 kilograms of milk solids, compared with an average, when we think about the 1950s, of 188 kilograms. And considering the progress that we have made through a sharpened focus on herd improvement, it's incredible to think the kinds of gains that we can make in the future as we double down on this focus. If we continue to accelerate the rates of genetic gain which we're committed to as a herd improvement cooperative and breed only the best cows, I know that we can increase cow production relative to live weight, we can maintain total milk solids production from fewer cows and reduce agricultural emissions and ensure that everyone has a sustainable and profitable business to boot. At an individual farm level, there can be many variable factors, but based on our research, we believe that it's absolutely conceivable that by 2030, you know, your herd today could be performing at the level of your top 25% of your cows producing today through a good herd improvement plan focused on genetic gain. The good news is that we're really making great progress in this space. Over the past 30 years, we've invested more than $80 million into genomic science, and alongside farmers' herd management decisions, this has played a key role into the rates of gain that we are seeing in people's herds right now. To achieve these gains, we use a wide variety of tools, including artificial breeding, sex semen, herd testing, DNA parentage verification, genomic science and genomic evaluation. And looking forward, we're focused on future solutions as well. As highlighted by Brent earlier, we invest heavily into R&D so we continue to deliver better outcomes for farmers. We've talked about the methane research program that we've undertaken. We're in our third year of that research program, and that's hugely exciting. We know the results from the program have found that there is genetic variation in the amount of methane emitted after accounting for the feed eaten. And we're really looking forward to measuring the methane output of these bulls' daughters to confirm the heritability of this trait. We're also investing and investigating heat tolerance research. We know that in 2030, 2040, the climate will be a lot different to what it is now and be a lot warmer. And so we're one step closer to enabling farmers to have a more heat-tolerant cow. We've identified the SLIC gene. We've, for the last 8 years, have been breeding up these animals which are more tolerant to warmer temperatures. They're more productive when the temperature increases. So we're testing them at the moment for cold sensitivity, and they've come through those research investigations really well. And now the next step is to undertake a round of matings where we're putting the top SLIC bulls, as we call them, into high genetic merit cows across the country to start breeding a more efficient cow. So assuming progress continues as planned, we look to be able to launch heat-tolerant cows by 2029. So that's a really good, clear demonstration of the sort of future-focused thinking and investments we're making now to ensure that when you need it in the future, that we've got solutions for you. Cows that are more emission efficient aren't just a hope for the future, they exist in the national herd today. We just simply need more of them. And now's the time to sharpen our focus as a sector, not only by breeding highly efficient cows to help the sector remain profitable, but breed highly efficient cows to make sure we're sustainable long into the future. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for attending with us today, and it's been great to share these results with you. I'd also like to thank Murray and the board for their support over the last 12 months. And also, Murray, thank you for your chairmanship of LIC. It's been wonderful. You've been a great leader for the cooperative. Finally, I'd like to thank all of our staff, many who are here today, for your contribution over the past year. And I really look forward to working alongside you to deliver another a great year of herd improvement and great results for our cooperative. I'll now hand over to Ian Brown, the Chair of the Honoraria Committee, to present the Honoraria report. Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, David. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In accordance with Clause 24.2 of the LIC Constitution, the Honoraria Committee is made up of between 2 and 4 farmer shareholders who are elected by shareholders. The current committee members are Shirley Trumper, who's here today, Gordon Glentworth, Scott Montgomery, and myself. The role of the committee is to consider and recommend to shareholders the form and the amount of remuneration of directors and the shareholder reference group members. Last year, the committee met formally on 4 occasions in order to perform this task. It's important to note that the Honoraria Committee undertakes its role on behalf of the shareholders, independent of LIC, the board and the shareholder reference group. In arriving at our recommendation, the Honoraria Committee takes into consideration analysis of data sourced from annual reports and director fee surveys compiled by both Strategic Pay and the New Zealand Institute of Directors, consultation with the board and the shareholder reference group chairs, LIC management, David Chin, as well as the committee's knowledge and judgment of the wider LIC operating environment. The survey size is approximately 400 public and private companies and encompasses response from some 2,500 individual directors. Although the data set is detailed and wide-ranging, the Honoraria Committee also more closely considers comparable agricultural organisations within that data set. The Honoraria Committee acknowledges the importance to the shareholders and farmers of LIC of both attracting and maintaining a high calibre of directors on its board and members of the shareholder reference group. The objective of your Honoraria Committee is to ensure that director remuneration is relevant to the market, there is some recognition of opportunities foregone, and is sufficient to attract and retain good governors for LIC. The committee recognises the workload and the compliance obligations of the LIC board, given its listing on the New Zealand Stock Exchange. The view of the Honoraria Committee this year for the board is to further increase remuneration, to maintain relativity to similar organisations and the wider operating environment of our directors. The committee has considered and continues its recommendation of a discretionary pool up to a maximum of $60,000 be made available to the board specifically to compensate directors for extra duties, skills and roles, including committee chairs. This year, the board used approximately $45,000 of that total pool. The committee recommends for this year an increase of 8.3% for the chair, from $132,000 to $143,000, 10.1% for directors, $59,000 to $65,000, and an overall increase to the honoraria of the board of 8.8%, resulting in a total remuneration pool of $723,000. The shareholder reference group. The role of the shareholder reference group differs from that of the board, in that it is an independent body of shareholders whose purpose is to work collaboratively with the board and LIC management to promote the interests of farmer shareholders and assist the company to deliver on its purpose and vision. There are few organisations that have a body similar to the shareholder reference group. Given its unique role, and as such, the Honoraria Committee has few organisations which it can use for direct comparison. Again, discussion with the LIC management, board and shareholder reference group help inform our view. This year, the Honoraria Committee recommends an adjustment to remuneration of the shareholder reference group to ensure fair recognition of the commitment to the role and the time away from the members' own farm businesses. The committee recommend the following increases to members of the shareholder reference group. The chair, 36.5, increasing to 40,000, 9.5%. The deputy chair from 17 to 19,000, 11.7%. Members 12,600 to 14,000, 11%. An overall increase to the honoraria of the shareholder reference group of 10.8%, resulting in a total remuneration pool of 199,000, sorry, forgot the extra zero. The committee also considered the daily allowance paid to members of the shareholder reference group for days spent on LIC business outside of their normal meeting schedule and recommend the current daily allowance of $350 increase to $400, a 14.2% change. I would like to finish by thanking Melanie Tonkin for her knowledge, effort and support as Secretary of the Honoraria Committee, and I would also like to acknowledge the contribution of my fellow committee members for their efforts over the year. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ian. We move into the resolutions part of the meeting now, so there's a few procedural things I'll just outline here. So there are 12 resolutions to be considered today. A poll will be held for each one. So resolutions 4, 5 and 7 are elections for the Board of Directors and Shareholder Reference Group and and members of the Employee Share Scheme are unable to vote on those. Shareholders in the North Island region can vote on Resolution 4. Shareholders in the South Island region can vote on Resolution 5. Shareholders in the Lower North Territory can vote on Resolution 7. We use a first-past-the-post system for the Board of Directors and Shareholder Reference Group elections. This means that candidates receiving the highest number of votes will be appointed. All shareholders can vote on all the other resolutions, notably resolutions 1, 2, 3, 6, 8 and 9 are ordinary resolutions and require 50% approval to pass, and resolutions 10, 11 and 12 are special resolutions that require 75% approval. And results will be going to the New Zealand Stock Exchange later tonight and be available in the morning. So, approval of LIC Director remuneration. So, to receive and consider the LIC Honoraria Committee's recommendation, as Ian has outlined, to Directors' remuneration, and if thought fit to resolve by way of ordinary resolution to approve the total remuneration of all 9 directors to be a maximum of $723,000 per annum. I'll call on Ian. Could you please move? Thank you, Ian, and thank you, Shirley. Have a mover and a seconder. Is there any discussion? Would appear not. So those of you who haven't voted and you're in the room, you can mark your paper, and if you're online, you can vote accordingly. And we'll move on to the next slide. Thank you, David. Have you done the breakdown? Yep. Okay. And this is for resolution 2. This is to approve the total remuneration of all shareholder reference group members being increased from $179,500 to $199,000, and to increase the daily allowance from $350 to $400 per day. So once again, thank you, Ian, and Nathan's pick one. We'll take yours, Shirley, since you've done all the work. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Would appear not. We'll then move to the next item, which is resolution 3, which is the reappointment of Chartered Accountancy Partnership KPMG as the auditor until the conclusion of the company's next annual meeting, and that the directors be authorised to fix their remuneration. And I'm happy to move this resolution. Thank you, Ben, as a seconder. I suspect there's no discussion. Trevor Newland does a great job. And would you please mark your voting papers accordingly? We'll now move to resolution 4, which is the election to elect one candidate representing the North Island region as an elected director to the Board of Directors with effect from the conclusion of this meeting. So please note that it's only shareholders from the North Island region who reside there or have their participant code registered there who can vote. So I'm happy to move this resolution. Thank you, Ben. Second that. We won't have any discussion on that. So would you please mark your papers appropriately? And there they are there. So we've got Duncan Call, Ken Hames, Matt Hocken and Richard Luxton, of which you'll hear Richard, I see. Yep. Thank you. So we'll move on to resolution 5, which is to elect one candidate representing the South Island region. Big job this. There used to be 2 of us for the South Island. We've now got 3. So welcome to whoever that may be. So and noting only that this can only be shareholders from the South Island who can vote for this resolution, and I'm happy to move it. Thank you, Corrigan. So would you please? Oh, and the candidates there are Tony Miles, Andrew Slater, and Victoria Traynor. So if you'd mark your voting papers, and we will keep moving. This is a very important one. This is to ratify the reappointment of Sophie Haslam as an appointed director for a term expiring at the conclusion of the 3rd annual meeting following this annual meeting. So approximately 3 years. It's approximate because we never quite know when the annual meeting is going to fall. Sophie, I'll speak on your behalf. Sophie is the chair of our Audit, Finance and Risk Committee. You've served 2 terms. Oh, one and a bit, because we had a change around with some of the terms, And so Sophie resides in Wellington, and she's a professional company director. She's got a finance background. She is very astute. She serves on a number of boards, and if I can remember some of them, Centreport, Rangatira, former chair of Met Service, Cordia, what am I missing? Oh, Ngaitahu, yeah, currently on the Ngaitahu board. So she does a great job, and she is a very important part of our board and acting as an independent in that role. So I'm more than happy to move that resolution. Thanks, Matt. Does anyone want to ask any questions of Sophie? Would appear not, so we'll let you vote accordingly. We now move on to Resolution 7, which is to elect 2 candidates from the Lower North Territory to the Shareholder Reference Group with effect from the conclusion of this annual meeting. Now, just noting that there's only shareholders from the Lower North Territory are eligible to vote for this resolution. I suspect there may be 1 or 2 of you here. So I'm happy to move that resolution. Thank you, Ben. Seconded. And the candidates, sorry, I should run through them there. Sean Baxter, Mark Hooper and Thomas Reid. So if you vote, make your vote. Moving swiftly on to Resolution 8, which is to approve the re-election of Ian Brown to the Honoraria Committee with effect from the conclusion of this annual meeting. And once again, I'm happy to move that resolution.
Happy to second it, Chair.
Thank you, Ken. If you'd kindly make your vote. And in a similar light, we've got the to approve the re-election of Gordon Glentworth to the Honoraria Committee with effect from the conclusion of this annual meeting. And once again, I'm happy to move that resolution. And I'll ask for Alison. Thank you. Thank you for seconding that. So please mark your voting papers. Now, we move into a more complex sort of part of the meeting, which is around some constitutional matters, and what we have done here is wrapped up a number of things because you don't get to do this very often, so we make sure that we cover a few things in here. So Resolution 10 is the delegations of authority. So the constitutional amendments set out in Part A of the table in Schedule 1 of this notice of meeting, as reflected in the form of the amended constitution available on our website, be approved. So once again, I'm happy to move this resolution. Thank you, Matt. Is there any discussion? I suspect not. These are largely common sense resolutions, to be honest. And Resolution 7, which is the governance amendments, so this is around the constitutional amendments set out in Part B of the table in Schedule 1 to this notice of meeting, that they be approved. And once again, I will move that and ask for, thanks Matt, to second, thank you. So, any discussion? No. If I'm not mistaken, we're Resolution 12, which is administrative updates, the constitutional amendments set out in Part C of Table Schedule 1 and the notice of meeting be approved. And once again, I'm happy to move this. And thank you, Nathan, seconder from the West Coast. And so, any discussion? No. So please mark your voting papers, which concludes the formal part of that procedure. So, as I said, the results will be available later. So, we move into general business, but do we need to take a quick break just to compile some of the questions that have come in? Have any questions come in from abroad? You got some there, Maurice? Do you want to share them with us, or just?
Yep. So the
Do we need to take a break, or you can handle them all right?
Yep.
Perfect. Let's get into them.
The
General
first
business.
question is, what is LIC's position on gene modification?
Yeah, happy to take that
Yeah,
one.
but we have discussed it as a board quite recently, actually. So, yep, David, what's your interpretation of the board's directive?
Hot seat. Look, we think to achieve our goals around sustainability and the climate going forward, that we will have to look to the use of innovative technologies, and gene editing is one of those. So as a cooperative, herd improvement cooperative, we absolutely keep a active watching brief on technologies and try and stay abreast of those things internationally. Given our current legislative framework in New Zealand, we can't obviously adopt those at the moment, but if that sort of changes, we'll look to where things are appropriate and offer true benefit to farmers and allow us to continue to farm sustainably and profitably. We'll be looking to commercialise those. So yeah, actively keeping a watching brief.
It just occurred to me that actually some of you may be filling in your voting papers still and probably haven't handed them in. So maybe we can just collect those up while you're thinking about your next question. So I've got these guys circulating, some more coming in. While those are being collected, Maurice, did you have another question?
I do. The next one is, how is LIC working with other industry partners to help their shareholders meet sustainability reporting requirements?
Once again, I'll let you do that. You're in the hot seat on that. We've been discussing that again today as well, so, yep.
Look, yeah, partnerships and collaboration are a critical part of our strategy. We think as a sector, there's no individual organisation that can tackle all of these issues alone, so we are looking to actively partner with many organisations. I think a good example of that is the wearables integration, where we're actively opening up API integrations between Minder and wearables. I think another really good example is the collaboration that we've got with one of our biggest competitors, CRV. With the methane research, we're also working in that with PAMU and with some very generous help from the government through MPI and MB. So absolutely need to collaborate more and work together, and that's a strong message that we receive from our shareholders as well. The cooperatives that we own, we're blessed as an agriculture sector to have great co-ops underpin our success, and we need to work together more often for better outcomes for the sector.
Any questions from the floor? If there are, raise your hand and we'll give you a microphone. I'd be most surprised if Mid-Canterbury doesn't have any questions. I'll start picking people if you're not. Will.
Just so we don't get home too early to dinner. Sorry, Murray. But hey, just an easy one so Dave doesn't have to take it. But last time we were here, we were talking back about like Affy Milk and the risk around data ownership and herd testing. So probably just your view on that and how's that progressing and our views towards our data ownership and our strength in that.
Really good question, and it hasn't. I mean, the issue hasn't gone away.
Someone else gave that to me.
You're bright enough to think of your own questions, surely. Hey, you're quite right. I mean, that was a key consideration for the Affy Milk proposal, and goodness knows where we'd be had that gone ahead. But two things have happened, as you're aware of: COVID and the current situation. But the access to data hasn't diminished, and it's still there. And if anything, it's increased further. Actually, I don't know if Dyer would like to comment. Do you think?
Probably also to add to that, we're making huge investments the back end of our data systems to modernise our platform. We see the movement of data around the sector is really, really critical to unlock profitability and sustainability. And the key message I get when I'm going around farms is you don't want to enter the same bit of data twice. And so anything that we can do to reduce that, if you're entering your data into Minder, how do we make that available to accountants, to your dairy processor if they need stock inventory, etc. How do we do that? How do we do that cost effectively for you? So committed to that, making some big investments to the back end IT to enable that.
Is that the correct answer, Dyer? Dyer's there. technology expert. Any other questions here?
Question over here.
My question is regarding sex semen. We run two 50-50 operations on the Canterbury Plains here and invest a fair bit of money in sex semen over the last few years. The past season, we had a pretty dismal return on investment, in our opinion. So as LIC as a whole, I just want to make sure that you guys are focusing on that and how we improve that, because going forward, bobbies are probably a pretty big risk to our business, and we use a fair bit of beef semen, and we're trying to create avenues of trying to sell beef calves so that we can kind of offset some of that bobby calf that goes on the truck. But when you have a season like last season, I mean, we're not doing it again this year until we can see a bit more of a change in what's happening. So we've changed our business back to a structure where we're using what do we use? Not forward pack. We're using nominate. But yeah, just how we can create a bit more continuity in that as an option for us in our businesses, because going forward, if we can't create that as something that people are going to use, then how do we combat that bobby scenario? And I think last season just been scared a lot of people around that sex semen, and me and Amy, we used that in a very high amount. We spent a fair bit of money on that, and we had a very average return on it, and we got a pretty generic email from you guys as a whole. And yeah, I'd just like to see that area of the business worked on so that we can trust it and we can use it, because we want to be able to use it. But yeah, just our faith in that as a system is something that we're not going to use in our business until we can see some change.
You can start.
Yeah, look, absolutely agree with you. We were very disappointed in the results. We did not see that coming. Over 11 years of providing that service with non-return rates which were fairly consistent, that caught us out of the blue. So we've absolutely looked under every single stone to go, how can we improve this and make that experience far more consistent. We've made a lot of changes internally. It was really good to see that the winter performance of the 14,000 inseminations that qualified for analysing the performance has returned back to what we would expect, and we'll be absolutely transparent with the performance this spring. We see this sex semen as a critical tool going forward, absolutely critical around being able to breed heifer replacements from your top cows. Was going to be huge for cow efficiency, productivity on your farm. We're desperate to get this back on track and working. So rest assured we are not leaving any stone unturned to get that back up and running for you.
I might just add that, sex semen has been on the board's agenda for as long as I've been on the board. And the reason that we haven't released it earlier is because we've never been, or until recently, that comfortable with the conception rates, particularly with the frozen product. And that's why when we were able to start the research and development on fresh and the results were much better, we had more confidence. But as you're probably aware, it has been drip fed into the system. So, and I'm included, I was affected badly as well. So, yep. Acknowledged, totally acknowledged, but agree that it's a really important thing, really important tool for the future, really important. Yep. And globally, it's used really heavily. So to the point that it'd be less than 10% conventional semen used in some markets. But then they don't have the same seasonal calving pattern, which is so critical for us. So yeah, noted. Thank you. Any more questions from online, Maurice? One over here, Richard.
Sorry, the bobby calf thing sort of sparked a question for me. Assuming there is a change of government, what is LIC's role in lobbying that new government to reintroduce live export trade?
I'll give you the political answer. We are apolitical, so we have to remain agnostic to these things. But we can state a case, but there are other organisations which probably have more firepower than we do. But I think most of the farmers in the room would acknowledge that actually it was a useful tool, and many of you will have been building your businesses around the export trade. Nevertheless, what other people think often determines what happens, particularly when it's political. And so political decisions were made, and unfortunately the loss of life and all those cattle in the South China Sea didn't help. But certainly it would solve some problems, maybe around being able to, this is a personal view, but I think if we were able to export weaner beef cross cattle to, say, Australia to feedlot, would be a pretty good option. But that decision will be made by people beyond us.
Cool, thanks.
Phil?
David, I don't think you really answered the guy's question about the sex semen. The risk might be acceptable to you, but is it acceptable to him? So the risk may be acceptable to you, but is it acceptable to us? So what is the performance of that sex semen trial over the winter mating?
95 with the 95% confidence interval. I think we got it between. Geez, I don't have the figures here. About minus 3.2 to about. I think an average minus 4%. I'm looking at Malcolm. Yep. 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 So back to normal ranges. Yeah. Yep. So thank you.
Maurice, did you have a question from online? No. Any other questions from the floor? Better not pick on anyone. And if we're quick, we can get in within an hour of the start of the meeting. So, fast meeting's a good meeting. All right, if there's no further business, I'll declare the meeting closed. And just remind everybody that directors are available to talk throughout the year. Just contact them. I'm pleased that the company is in good heart and things are moving in the right direction, so it's good. Meeting closed. So there are refreshments next door, so just make your way through there. And we've got dinner shortly after that, and guest speaker who's arrived. Thank you, Colin. And take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.